Okay, folks, it gives me great pleasure to introduce. We're excited to have here the folks from the Path Forward. If you are leaving, please do not disturb. Thank you. I'll first welcome the co-director of the film, Mo Husseini and Julie Cohen. Thank you. Come join us. And, of course, one of the subjects of the film, co-founder of Interact, Aziz Abu-Sarah. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. I'm going to ask. I have so much to ask about this. I'm really this film gives me hope, and of course I want to open it to the conversation to the community as well. So I'll make you as much of a part of this as possible in a respectful way. But let's start from where this came from. Julie, you I didn't give Julie her full title, Academy Award winner. She's modest, but the Ruth Bader Ginsburg film. This is a little bit of a step in a different direction there, and where did this come from? Why did you want to make this film?
Okay, but first of all, for this audience, you didn't mention the Sturgeon Queens also.
There goes the modesty. Sturgeon Queen.
The Russ and Daughters film, available for rental on Canopy. Anyway. Yes, the idea for this film was not an idea for a film. It was a personal hope and need. I don't know how many of you guys feel this way, but in the weeks and months after October 7th, I found myself horrified by almost everything I was seeing and hearing in the mainstream, television, on social media, conversations even among associates and friends and people I know. I just felt like, where are the voices of empathy and understanding and big picture-ness? Why is everything that I'm hearing making me want to close my laptop and shut down my brain? And wondering is there anything, is there something else out there? And just a little bit of searching on the internet found oh my God, there are so many amazing people, both Palestinians and Israeli Jews, who are talking so thoughtfully, so sensibly, so inspirationally about these issues, often, and pairs of people, often using similar language to one another without having coordinated that. How could it be that we're not hearing more of those voices? And meanwhile, across the country, outside of Seattle, a stranger who is now a friend, Mo Husseini, was having some similar thoughts, and that led us to having some conversations, and it led to the thought of let's take these voices that maybe the idea is simple. Basically, let's take these voices that both of us, coming from different backgrounds, although truthfully in our capacity as Americans being quite similar in many ways, we're both responding to this. Why don't we just put some of these voices together and quickly put it into a short film that we can start sharing and see if there are other people that respond to these messages too?
Is that all true, Mo? Is there your side of the story that you want to add?
100% true. I think for both of us, the whole point was to show that it's not as rare as the media would have you believe. I think everything about our culture, and this is not a diss of the mainstream media. It's every aspect of the media, whether that's social media, whether that's the stuff that people are sending to each other. It all seems to be the stuff that's designed to inflame and enrage. And I think Julie's point is incredibly important in that it's not actually hard to find. It's not actually hard to find people who are engaging with each other in thoughtful ways about very difficult topics. And we wanted to highlight some of those folks and really tell the story of those folks.
And handing it over to Aziz. Aziz, where did you come in to this whole project? When did you hear of it, and how quickly were you to answer your phone?
How quick was I? That's a good.
It wasn't even through you, I don't think, through Michal,
Michal,
there's
yeah.
people handling things. And
So I got a message from you on social media, and then I passed it to Michal, who works with us, and within a few days we were already in conversation, and then both Maoz and I decided that we want to be involved in this idea. Had a lot of questions first, wanted to make sure it's something I would want to be part of, and very quickly we decided, yes, it is. And then we've seen each other in multiple parts around the world after that.
I was saying earlier that film is a great tool for social change and for impact, and this film has its job. And this film really serves two purposes, because for one, I like you, yes, I too, after October 7th, was looking, you were either, on one side or the other, and there was no space, no room for anyone who wasn't on one of those sides, and you were canceled if you were on one of those, anywhere in between, if you recognized any other side. So this is a film that gives comfort to a lot of people. I'm curious from the audience, did this film take anyone out of their comfort zone? Was this beyond your comfort zone? You could raise your hand if it was. Don't be shy. How do we reach those that this film is not in their comfort zone?
I'm not entirely sure of the answer to that. I mean, I think part of the concept, and we've thought about this in every way, from sort of the trailer that we created to graphics, like just trying to go for as a relatively broad and inclusive message, which doesn't mean that everyone is gonna love this film. We understand that, but in some ways, I guess taking a cue from someone who's in the film, Ami Dar, who made the point to us, people disrespect preaching to the choir all the time, but sometimes a first step is actually to get the choir together, to get it singing from the same hymnal, a weird word to use, I admit, in JCC, but to get, to be singing from the same page, and to get that. I mean, there is a hunger for this message we're finding as we start to take this film into the world. So if everyone that can connect to the message starts kind of connecting and sharing and finding that one another even exists, that feels like a great beginning, even if there are plenty of people that still aren't getting on board. If the kind of quiet, don't want to think about it, I'm too busy with my brain being shut down crowd can actually start saying, like, no, there's a message that actually I can be open to and that can get me thinking on these issues in an open-hearted, open-minded way, then I guess that's sort of like, for us, like I'll say here, like Dayenu, like,
I would say that many of us in the film are doing that also. So it's a story about the people in the film who are doing exactly what you just said. I've been on campuses all over the States in the last just few months. Some hard conversations. We're reaching people who wouldn't normally come to those kind of meetings. And I would fully agree with Julie. Look, in social sciences, and I worked in conflict resolution many places around the world, there's a rule called the 3.5% rule, which if you get 3.5% of the population to really be committed, 100% committed to a change, you're likely to succeed. Actually, I can't think of any that hasn't. Doesn't mean, by the way, protest once a month, that doesn't count as part of the 3.5%. It means you daily committed to something. So we know we have more than 3.5% to agree with us. We still don't have the 3.5% threshold who are going out and daily. So being 100% committed. And so coming to here and meeting people who might agree with our messages, now the next point is to get you to understand hope doesn't happen by only sympathizing and by only empathizing. It happened by working together, by putting that hope into action. And so that's, I think, the goal, the way I see the film, is that big part of the goal is to invite everyone to join the different pairs who are here and to find a way to engage and to put our hope into action.
Amazing. And this leads me to my next question, which is seeing the American audience that's engaged with this topic and seeing the Israeli audience that's engaged with this topic. Will this film screen in Israel? And beyond the film, how do you see the differences between kind of how I'd say probably mostly American jury or Americans with stakeholders with Israel and Palestine, how they interact with this film and movement, and versus what's going on in Israel on the ground, because that's really where the 3.5% has to happen.
I have no idea.
No, it's on you.
The first part.
Yeah, I can answer the first part. I mean, I think I think a big part for me, at least, of this film was wanting to create a message that allowed people to sit in the middle. I think the middle, in a lot of ways, is hated and attacked. Like you have to pick a side. You have to pick a side. And I think the message that the film opens with, which is a quote from Aziz, this idea of how you divide people, that it's not Muslim against Jew, it's not Arab against Israeli, it's about people who believe in peace and tolerance and cooperation, and those who don't yet, right? Like that, giving people permission to exist in that space that allows them to feel good about holding humanity in the middle is kind of the goal for at least for me, and I know for Julie.
Yeah, I think we had really thought of this film as being primarily for American audiences, although I will say that when we had a theatrical run at the Firehouse Cinema downtown, we were sort of surprised. Well, first of all, we were surprised that the film drew an audience without us really having a marketing budget, so that was good. That was encouraging. But also, actually, a number of Israelis in New York did come to the film, and I kind of felt like maybe what we're saying is going to be like, oh, if you live in Israel, if you live in the West Bank, you already kind of are aware of some of what we're talking about, and it will seem too simplistic. That hasn't really seemed to be the case. I mean, even within Israel, the lack of knowledge about the broadness of a peace movement might, I think, maybe surprise some people. I was shocked personally to see the footage of the Women of the Sun, Women Wage Peace joint action on October 4th of 2023. Like, how had I not known that movement existed in the world? And just seeing the footage makes me feel something positive. Like, makes you feel like, wait a second, maybe this part of the world isn't just what I've been told about it, in a way that feels helpful and useful. We're like trying to be helpful. Yeah. Like, this is like, often when you're making film, it's all like, oh, we're artists, blah blah. But like, this is really we actually made this film because we want to help. Like, this is advocacy, and I don't think we're ashamed of that. We've had our hearts and minds opened by Aziz Maoz and the amazing people from Stand Together, and we want other people to share in that experience.
Aziz, how do you see the differences here of the movement here on the ground and the movement there on the ground?
I don't know about the differences, but I think there is a lot of work needed here. I spend a lot of my time here in the U.S. I divide my time usually between the U.S. and Jerusalem. And the idea that Israel and Palestine will be solved only by Israelis and Palestinians, I don't believe that's going to happen. Arab
Americans love to hear that. That's good.
I think America has been a big part of promoting this conflict, helping this conflict, spending a lot of money for our military companies in this company to make a lot of profit over our lives. There is lots that we are involved in, whether we know it or not, and change isn't going to happen only in Israel and Palestine. It's going to happen when people also in the United States saying enough is enough, don't do this in our name. Right now, we allow it to happen as a country. We ignore the things we don't want to really see, and we need to take a stand here. So I think the need is for both movements to work together. The idea of separating an Israeli-Palestinian movement from an American movement, from a European even movement, is not realistic. I think we need to start thinking more holistically and working together and how we can strengthen each other and how we can support each other.
Julie, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to maybe say something about a role that I see for American Jews in this. I mean, until starting to work on this film, frankly, like the thought of talking publicly about the conflict seemed unthinkable to me. I talk about all kinds of political things online. I never talked about Israel. It was just things were gonna go badly. I don't think that's an acceptable position anymore. And I also found from all kinds of, not close friends, but all kinds of acquaintances that reached out to me in certain ways or with whom I had conversations after October 7th who were making an incorrect assumption about what my beliefs might be. And I found a real need that to sort of be vocal about. Don't assume that because I'm Jewish that I have hatred towards Palestinians, and don't jump to a conclusion that I'm an AIPAC supporter because I'm an American Jew. And I think other people feel that way. But what's hard, because it's not that comfortable, is that actually we need to say that. Like those aren't my people. These are my people.
And much the same. I mean, as a Palestinian, it's the same thing. Like as a Palestinian American, the sense, once again, similar to Julie, like all of a sudden people operating on assumptions of what I must believe about the conflict or how I must feel about Jews or how I must feel about Israelis. I'm American. Like, I mean, I am Palestinian. I'm proud to be Palestinian as an origin, but fundamentally I'm an American and I view it through that lens. And I think to Aziz's point, we have a role in terms of actually being an honest broker, right? Like actually holding both Israelis and Palestinians to a standard that we find acceptable. And that standard is one that, for me, is not about being just pro-Palestinian or just pro-Israeli, but rather being pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli. And focusing on the people, right? Because fundamentally, there's a line in the film that Sally says that we are so much better than our governments. And I think that is 100% true. And all of us here who are Americans are about to experience that for the next 4 years.
I don't know what you're referring to.
God help us.
My last question before we open it to the audience for a couple of questions, there must be, has there been any pushback? It's so hard to be in the middle when everything's so polarized. Have you received pushback?
The good thing I feel like about the way that the people in our film frame the messages and the way that we've framed the film, to this point, the film has drawn the audience that wants to see it. The trailer has gotten spread, but there is a hunger for this message, and that's who's kind of attracted to it. We've basically, been sort of given, not been attacked yet. I have had the experience earlier in just sort of like putting out some stuff on social media. Like if I said things critical of what the Israeli government was doing in Gaza, I certainly would get, the criticism comes from your own kind. I certainly would get people call, like calling me, I don't even know how you say it, capo, like it doesn't feel good to get that comment in your social media, and I certainly got plenty of that. But to this film, to these very thoughtful, carefully expressed with love and empathy messages, it seems to be drawing the people who are ready and willing to hear it, and other people thus far have left us alone.
That's true from...
Same. I mean, I get a lot of crap from social media for other things I say, but not for the film.
Not for the film, but in general for our work, yes. I think if you're doing this kind of work, you'll have people who will be unhappy regardless of what you say. You're never good enough. You have to prove yourself to everyone and then disprove yourself for the other person to like you and then change what... So that's going to happen. I'm used to it already for many years, so it's okay. You can go for it here.
I think there are some questions from the audience. Let's see. Yes, let's get the pushback now. Folks, I will ask, of course, to keep the conversation respectful. We're going to pass around a microphone and keep your comments in the form of a question, please. Thank you.
Hi. Mostly to Aziz, I have my question is, how do you widen the discourse beyond Jerusalem? Because, there is a Palestinian that are included in Israel by de facto. But how do you include the West Bank? I mean, I don't believe anybody can talk to Gaza at the moment, but at least the West Bank. How does it spread, a movie like that and a search like that?
I cannot necessarily speak how the movie can do it. I'll leave that to Julie and Mo. But I can tell you, for our work is not only in Jerusalem, and it is happening within Israel. My colleague Maoz, who you saw in the video, he's right now. Yesterday, he sent me a message. He was in a Palestinian town inside Israel, was doing an event which was hundreds of people, and people are showing up. People are very interested. You didn't meet Alon Lee and Sally in the film, but also Rula, who's here. They do tons of work inside Israel. Women of the Sun do a lot of work within Israel, and then a lot within the West Bank as well. When I was with Maoz recently over there, and we traveled through some of the West Bank. We did actually an event, for example, in Nazareth, which reached out to the Palestinian community there. So there is a lot of that. We're working a lot with students as well. We're working also supporting students in getting scholarships, which right now is a big problem with financial reality over there. And we're starting to do a lot of stuff online as well. And the Interact example, we're starting a dual narrative education center, which is mostly online. You can find it if you go to dualnarrative.org. It's online, and it's aiming to reach both the Palestinian and the Israeli communities to understand conceptions or terminologies and ideas, histories, not only from your own point of view, but also from the other point of view. Not so you agree with it, but just so we can have this conversation. If I don't know what you mean when you say a certain word, it's very hard for us to have a dialogue about anything else. And so that's part of what we are doing, and we're doing tons more stuff as well.
Hi, this is for Aziz. You mentioned that you had been traveling to American campuses.
Yes.
And so much of what we've heard and seen is so black and white, so negative. Other than maybe Dartmouth, we haven't really had a lot of exposure to real conversation that people were having. Jews as well as, people who were sympathizing with Palestinians, Jewish or Arab. Mm-hmm. What was your experience, and what did you find, where was the resistance and where was the receptiveness in your experience?
So first, my experience was very different than what you see on social media, which I think often that's reality. Is what we see in social media is a snippet of what somebody wants you to see. There's a daily radicalization that we all go through, whether it's on social media or on mainstream media, that doesn't show you that a lot of things are going on in many, many of these campuses that are ignored. We did some work with a campus in the Midwest, and we did a lot of work with them, connecting them to Israelis and Palestinians through online webinars. And they came together, the leaders from the pro-Palestinian groups. They had some Jewish people who would come and help them to make sure all the signs they're having are signs that definitely don't have any anti-Semitic tropes, for example, and they really work together. They might have not agreed on everything, but they work together to make sure that, okay, we might disagree on what's going on, but let's make sure we can talk about what messaging we are sending. And they might have argued about some, but it worked. I was on campuses from here in New York, in, for example, Rochester University. We had 1,200 people show up. Not one person heckled us. We were in Binghamton, New York as well. We had one of our colleagues at Columbia. We rarely actually, we did get every now and then heckled, but as a group, not just me and Maoz. Actually, I don't think Maoz and I pretty much got heckled yet. We're waiting for it. And I saw people who would walk in planning to heckle us. You know, when you look in the crowd and you know someone is there to fight you, and by the end of it, they don't. A couple of our colleagues were heckled, but even then, it was not. Most of the times, the heckling happened before the event or after the event, not from the audience.
Is there one program? Is there one program that is heckling more than others? Do you feel no?
No, not necessarily.
Heckling comes from both sides.
Yeah, I don't think it's a specific. And again, mostly it's people who don't want you to speak because they don't even know what you're going to say. It's more ideological, and they Google you. Like we had one of our colleagues, if you know, there's a web on Twitter, there's this thing called Stop Anti-Semitism, and it's an awful account. And they went after a Palestinian guy who's like very, very well known as a peace activist. Most Israelis, even people in the center right, respect him. And they went after him and did a whole campaign trying to silence him from being at some festival speaking. The beautiful thing is many of our Jewish and Israeli partners stood with him and told that organization, you need to apologize. They never did. But there were a lot of support that helped him, and he's not labeled as anti-Semitic because of it, which is very important. The moment you're labeled as such, you're not going to get invited anywhere. And then the same guy recently was speaking in a university in the UK, and some pro-Palestinian groups wanted to boycott him because they didn't like that he was speaking with Israelis. So the same guy is somehow Zionist and anti-Semitic, and within a couple of months.
It all works today. You can be anything. All right, we're going to take one last question here. Thank you.
I've been supporting coexistence efforts for over 30 years through the Abraham Initiatives and now the Parent Circle. This film encapsulates perfectly so many things that I feel and care about. How do I share it with other people in my world?
Thank you for the closing question. Perfect.
Yeah, that's always the good closing question. We are working on that. I think the best thing to do is to send you to us at this point. Both Mo and I are quite active on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, etc. I'm Filmmaker Julie, just all one word, Filmmaker Julie. Mo, I hate to do it this way, but we're close to having all different distribution, both mainly educational and otherwise. We have a list of 50 places that want to organize screenings, and that's getting bigger by the day. But we've been, working on getting worked out how this is all gonna happen. So I mean, because truthfully, at the same time, some of the larger entities through whom I've distributed films in the past don't necessarily want, people are afraid of this subject matter. So showing that, like, no, there's organic interest, and it's not, I mean, they've been watching their own coverage, so they think that, like, it's all hate. We're seeing otherwise, and so reach out to us personally. We'll put you on our list, and soon, early in 2025, when we can announce our distribution plans, we'll connect you to our non-theatrical distributor. So.
I'll add just something. I think one thing that all of us can do is push our media outlets to start putting this kind of stuff, whether it's this film or others and others on social media, or interview the people in these films. You know, to me, it's a crazy that Alon Lee and Sally or Riman or, you know, all these people who you saw, or Amidar, who's here in New York, is not the person invited by CNN or by MSNBC or by any of those, even NPR. Not enough are the ones who are on the radio and on television. And you are the listeners. You are the people who are watching these stations, and you can push to change that narrative. So that's one. The second thing I would say, follow the people you saw. There's a bunch of good people, and they represent different organizations, and they all really do amazing work. So please get in touch with us, with all of the people in the film. I'm sure they all need all different kinds of help. Yeah, look us up. We all probably online. I would assume all of us are
Terminally.
Yeah, we're all online on at this point. So please reach out.
And I'll share two more important things. One, this film is actually having an Oscar campaign, and if you know Academy voters, I know this is a movement, but this is a way to get that film out there more. So please do spread the word amongst your Academy voters, and let's get this film the best distribution that it can get.
And just for friends and personal, Isaac mentioned the screening at the Brooklyn Heights Synagogue tomorrow afternoon. There's also a screening at the Cinema Arts Center on Huntington, Long Island on Monday evening that I'll be at, and at the Claridge Cinema in Montclair, New Jersey. So if you've got friends in Montclair, we're doing a screening there that also involves the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, if anyone's familiar with that great organization. So myself and two wonderful women from the Sisterhood are going to be talking. Claridge, Montclair, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock.
If I can just add one thing,
Of course.
and it's just a follow-up to what Aziz was saying. Please, if there's anything that I would ask people is question when you see assholes out there. Sorry, I did. Julie doesn't like it when I swear. I swear a lot.
Once per Q&A.
That was my one. Everyone out there seems to look for the absolute worst people on both sides to have them speak. You see the absolute worst Israeli representatives and the absolute worst Palestinian representatives spewing nonsense and honestly inflaming the situation and making an already crappy situation worse. There are plenty of good Israelis. There are plenty of good Palestinians. There are plenty of people who are focused on the right things. And the right things are that everyone in the region is a human being with human rights, and everyone in the region has a right to live freely and safely. There are plenty of people delivering that message. And when you see the elevation of people who aren't doing that, do understand that that is not the majority. And that's it.
Thank you.